Welcome to the Never Been Promoted podcast and YouTube channel. I'm on a mission to help you cut the tie to all the things that are holding you back so you can unleash your entrepreneur. Every time I hear that funky music, I just love it. Thank you. Hey, welcome back to Never Been Promoted. This is Thomas Helfrich, your host. We are here on a mission to help you unleash your entrepreneur by cutting the ties to all the crap that's holding you back. That's right. The people, the things, the entitlement, the excuses, the fears, all that stuff keeps you from being a great entrepreneur. And we all have to deal with it. And you're not alone in it, in the journey. Hey, if it's the first time here, thanks for coming by. And if it is not, and you've been here before, thanks for coming back. Our guest today is Dr. Ravi Iyer. He's a medical doctor. Off camera, I call him a gluttony for entrepreneurship because he has so much stuff going on. Author, TedX speaker. He builds amazing teams. And we're going to focus a lot of the time talking around some of that stuff too. Only call to action I ever do is if you like the YouTube channel and you like the content, give us subscribe at youtube.com at Never Been Promoted. And if you listen to this on the podcast, Apple, Spotify, 5-star it. And if you like it, do that. And if you don't, let me know on LinkedIn. Here, I'll put that up as well. How to get a hold of me and tell me why it sucks or why you think it should improve. Enough shameless promotion. Let's go ahead and bring on the doctor. The doc. Dip, dip, the doc. Do you know that song? Dip it, doctor. No.
Hi there.
I don't know how you could be a doctor and not know that song. Dr. Dre.
Yeah, I guess I missed out on that one.
You missed that? I will have to send that to you because I feel like you should know that one. Thank you, by the way, for jumping in here today with me.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
I called you a gluttony for entrepreneurship. And the reason I did that, because you're going to explain your background, it just kind of keeps going, all the stuff you're doing. So we're going to dive into that in a second. But first and foremost, I got to ask you an icebreaker question. I love this question, and I'm so curious how you would answer it. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody listening at some point, you can drop in the comments what your answer would be. If you were to be arrested out of nowhere, like no one knows you've been arrested, they just find out you've been arrested, what would your friends and family assume you did?
Oh. Actually, I have been arrested.
Oh, wow. Okay, we can just go down that path. That's fine.
Yeah. Probably speeding, but
I got asked if you're what would you have possibly been arrested for? Speeding? No way, it's not speeding.
Yeah, I was speeding.
I mean, how fast does one go to get actually handcuffed?
No, I didn't get handcuffed, but I was arrested. Like I was detained. I was detained. I was told to follow. I was told to follow him all the way to the station.
Who won? Did you beat him there?
No.
You're like, I know where I'm going. I've been there before. Let me just go ahead and get there.
I paid a hefty fine.
That's funny. All right. Well, hey, listen. Talk. You have a bunch of stuff going on, and I want you to, your biggest thing use, like your top skill you were talking about was building highly aligned, performing teams. But talk about what you're kind of working on, what your passion is right now, and back up with the kind of the backstory.
See, my passion is people. All my life, that's what I do. People who come to me, they don't come to me because they got a diagnosis or anything else. They come to me because they got something in their life that's preventing them from enjoying life or living life the way they would like to. And the only thing I do is I either remove the obstacle, or if I'm not able to remove the obstacle, I reduce its impact. And if I'm not able to do both of those, then I try to teach them to live with it. That's all. So what I do with people is enable them to transcend the circumstances of their life. What I do with teams is pretty much the same thing. I enable teams to transcend the limitations that hold them from their performance. And usually, almost invariably, I should say, that the blocks to performance are not physical. They are actually mental assumptions people have about who they are, what they are there for, and how they relate to other people. So when I work with teams, I usually get them aligned by the end of the first day. And from that point onwards, it's only producing a shift in what they believe their core identity is. You'll be amazed how many people work in companies and work in organizations, and they think that they know why they are there until you start asking them some questions to identify what drives them, and it they begin to realize that they really don't know why they are doing what they're doing, and that they're just showing up every day and they are muddling through the day without realizing uh, where they fit into the larger scheme of things, and their bosses don't know how to explain why they are doing what they are doing in a way that helps the boss meet his goals. So everyone is left partially satisfied and immensely dissatisfied at the same time, and there is this constant fight, that there's conflict all the time, and at the end result of it is 6 months down the road, a year down the road, there's burnout, and then there is, oh, you know what, I gotta go find a different job, I hate this job. So then there is
Mhm.
my clinic. We've been a top doctor clinic every year since 2012, and my staff, every staff member who's there with me since 2012 is still there with me, and we all are incredibly aligned as to why we are here. It is not my clinic, it is our clinic. In the way we work is, this is our job,
Yeah.
and this is what we do.
Could somebody in the doctor's office just not make me fill out the same form every time when none of the information has changed? That's all I ask. There's a thing called EHR for a reason. Thank you.
We ask,
Appreciate it.
we don't make you fill out the whole thing, we ask what changed, and then we ask you to just give us the changes.
I just look at you straight in the eyes and go, nothing. It's for you to figure out. That's why I'm here. Your insurance doesn't work. Good catch. That's because I don't have any now. See what I did there? You were going to try to build them. Anyway. All right. So are there similarities between, like, let's say a physician's office or provider's office and a technology team? Like, are there significant differences in how you would approach team building in those situations?
No, it is human beings. It is human beings working to achieve a particular target, a goal. And it doesn't matter whether your target is to turn out, perfect code, or it is to understand what a client's requirements are and deliver it, or it is to understand what a person's ailment is and to solve the problem. It is always people working to achieve a goal. And I can give you, right, for your audience and for you, I can give you the one line answer to that, and I call it the three musketeer policy. Alexander Dumas with Athos, Porthos, and D'Artagnan in that famous movie had that one for all for one policy, and we call it the three musketeer policy, and we do that in the office. That is actually our secret sauce, is to get everyone on the same policy, one for all for one. Um,
How do
and
you do that? So that starts with, like, before even hiring, right? Like, you got to have a vision of what that means. And then you got to go find people who can maybe eventually buy into it. They may not do it right away, right? So how
no,
do you do that? I guess because that sounds great, but I wouldn't have a clue how to implement that.
So the first thing I do is, I don't try to make you be for me. I try to make me be for you first. So the first thing I need to find out is, what is it that drives you? And I say, okay, if these are the things that you absolutely want to have in your life, what do you think? How do you think we can work to make that happen for you? So this is something that most people don't understand how to deal with. You have a new hire, and instead of asking the hire, what can you do for me? I'm asking the higher, what can I do for you to have the things you want in your life? That's the first thing I want to know. And then, all right, these are the things, and they go to okay, this is what I would like to have happen in my life. I said, okay, these are the things that need to happen, and I'm going to see what are the things that I need to do to make that happen for you. And I'm not going to say it is going to happen. I'm going to say, okay, what do I need to do to make it happen? And then we can start talking about what can you do to help me do these things so it happens to you. So, and along the way, you may find that, okay, out of the 5 things, only you can only do 2 things. Okay, then those 2 things will do. The other 3 things you're on your own. But guess what? Now you walk away saying, hey, these guys really want to make these 2 things happen for me. You're
What
on the
happens when
team.
the thing that the person really wants to do doesn't quite align up to
Then I'll
the
say I can't do it. It's called integrity. Integrity is something that people think is integrity is they think is honesty, but actually integrity, I learned this a long time ago. Integrity is when something is whole, complete, and functions just the way it was designed for. And that's the first part. The second part, corollary to that, is that when it is not whole, complete, and doesn't function the way it is, you approach all the people who are impacted by it not being whole, complete, and not functioning, and fix the upsetness that was caused by your not functioning. That is integrity. So what we do in our office is, if I do something, you, the first thing is to understand that each one of my staff, I have 4 of them, we all have promises to each other. They come into the office with the idea of an explicit promise to me, and I have a promise to them that their day is going to be good. They have a promise that my day is going to be good. Each patient is coming in is expecting us to fulfill on a promise that we are going to make their day be good. So these are agreements. These are not just idle wishes. When we don't fulfill on these agreements, I have only 2 options. Either I decide to fulfill, or I say, okay, I cannot fulfill, but then I'm going to have to fix all the upsetness that was caused by the implicit agreement that existed before I declared my inability to fulfill it. This basic principle is rigidly exercised, and that's what makes for performance.
when you how did you learn this? I guess because how did you come up with this? So to
I
speak?
didn't.
Well, it sounds like there's like some
years
Christian
ago.
beliefs in that. There's some Buddhist ideas in that as well. From like
A
there's a
little
lot of
bit.
things like that have
Years
been
ago,
studied for years, right? For some millennial.
many years ago, back in the early 80s, there was a very charismatic and controversial uh, person who, by the name of Werner Erhard, who did a program called EST or EST. It blew everyone's mind away. But regardless, EST was a profoundly transformative Western way of an ancient Indian and Eastern philosophy of life, but he managed to couch it in Western language, akin to Western thinking. But more recently, there was you can go on YouTube and look up Michael Jensen. Michael Jensen is a professor of in the SANS Business School, the SANS lectures series. You can listen to it. It's a wonderful lecture he gives on integrity. Listen to it, and it'll change your mind.
And so that's the genesis of your
That's the genesis
how
of
you
what I
coach
use.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And talk about your book a little bit. So Just discuss what you'd written there and kind of
So
the
the Reaper's
motivation.
Dance. So it's all started. This whole thing of coming on podcast, talking about what I do, and what my goals are, started in 2020 when the pandemic hit. I found that my team was superbly excellent at not only keeping ourselves safe, at keeping our entire community safe, and we were able to shift their entire dialogue by the way we were working. And then after the pandemic was over, I looked at all the devastation that was caused by all the discombobulated people running around like chickens with their heads cut off. I said that, you know what, this really did not have happened. There was no need for this kind of catastrophe for 1 million Americans to have died and all this. I mean, of course, we would have had deaths, but it was totally unnecessary. This what I call excess mortality, and the only reason it was happening was that the the principles we were so good at using in the clinic did not have a wider audience. So I said, you know what, I need to get this away from a one-to-one to a one-to-many platform. And I decided to write a book which encapsulated our journey through the pandemic, and that was The Reaper's Dance. Uh, it's written in a conversational story style, but within it is buried the lessons that we implemented. But then after the book came out, I decided, okay, I'm going to get on podcast to start talking about what we did. And now 60 to 70 podcasts later, I'm talking to you now. I now have, I'm by the end of this year, I would probably be on one or two TED Talks. I'm going to be auditioning for I've already auditioned for one, auditioning for another one at the end of next week.
What are you
Uh,
gonna? What's the main focus of your TED Talk? What's your what is it? The idea worth spreading.
Human connection, the power of focused connection to overwhelm, to allow people to transcend. So the basic principle is this: we have two aspects to our awareness. One is our ability to be aware of reality. Reality hits us, molecules hitting our tongue, giving us taste, molecules going up our nose, giving us smell, wind hitting our eardrums, giving us sound, molecules hitting our skin, giving us touch, photons hitting our retina, giving us light and color. So, reality is hitting us. These are impacts. We don't feel them as impact, but they're literally hitting us, and they hit us hard enough, it falls, gives us pain too. So bottom line is, out of these impacts, we immediately construct a name, form, and a judgment, an evaluation, a comparison with a prior narrative, and we construct our reality. But the problem is, we think our story, this narrative, is reality. It is not. It is these impacts that is reality. The rest is all a construct.
It's
And
interesting. Yeah. Oh, keep please going. Yeah. Keep going.
and if you can stand in the space between the experience of reality and the moment the construct gets created, there is a small 3-second space. If you can stand in the stillness of that space, you suddenly have choice, you have freedom, because you can now see the construct that is evolving, and you can decide which construct you want to allow power to. You give that construct power by giving it your attention. So
What
to do
drives
that, pardon?
what drives you? Because you do so much. So like, what's the childhood moment? What's the internal driver that makes you continue wanting to be great? I'm curious.
The I was born with ADHD, but I grew up in a society that did not know it. So I suffered quite a bit with trying to figure my way through it. So this storm that I'm talking about, the storm of narratives, I was born with it, and I had to figure out my way to get past it. And along the way, I found the ability to stand in that space. When I found that ability, I suddenly could play. Anything that came my way became automatically my play toy to play with and allow it to unfold. The power of focus gave me the power to control how my life shaped. But it also brought me face to face with the fundamental difficulties I had to negotiate growing up, which drove me to prove my point. And then after some point, once I became so good at it, I couldn't stop. The machine had developed so much momentum that it just could not stop.
It's interesting. So many entrepreneurs I meet have what I call entrepreneurial ADD. Like they have that energy, they got all the ideas, they got a touch of the success, and then it's like it's amplified. It's like just throwing fire on some. Uh, what's your advice to them for just managing that? Because it is an absolute advantage to have this amount of energy and focus and true clarity and clairvoyance that is really hard to explain sometimes to people, that you really get a lot of associated paths that people don't see, and you see it, and by the time you explain it, people have lost interest in listening. So what do you recommend to that group so they can harness that power? Because you've done it and so many people struggle with it. It's often a reason why they burn out and don't last. So I'll be quiet now and you can tell me your secret sauce.
So it's an evolution of a journey that had three phases. The first phase was conflict, struggle, a sense that I knew something about myself, but I did not know how to articulate it. The next phase was the first arrival of success, and then the intoxication that went with it, and then an inability to stop and really have balance. So you're driving yourself again and again, so you are heading down the cliff towards burnout, but you are driven by the successes that are coming your way, because now you have found the secret of how to achieve, and you can't stop. And then comes the third and final phase, which is where I am. And arrived at that only barely 3 years ago. So, I'm 66 now. So I was 63 by the time I arrived at that. Some people don't. Some people fall into that second phase, and they don't arrive at the third phase, and they drive themselves off the cliff of burnout. The third phase is where you realize that it really does not matter, that you are succeeding just for the fun of it, and that it does not matter whether you succeed or fail, but that you have been given this gift to manifest, and you'll manifest as long as it's yours to manifest. And when you don't have it to manifest, you'll just walk away without ever regretting that you are not able to manifest it. So you come to a point of inner silence that allows you to play as long as you can play without any regrets. But that third phase is difficult. It is not everyone gets it.
Yeah. Well, and tell me walk me through yours in a little more detail. So did you identify it happening, or did you like, did you like, I want to go someplace? Like, how
So,
do you go from two to
so,
three?
so one and two were driven by the need to prove to my father that I could do it, that I and along the way, by the time I got around to proving it, my father developed dementia. So he really was no longer available to
Uh,
know that I had done it. So I had to face that question, why am I doing it now when the original reason for doing it no longer exists? And
the
then,
father's approval, right? Like that's come up
yeah,
so many times in interviews that
yeah.
I have this,
It's a
I'm like, I
universal.
need him to say, I'm proud of you. You get it. You did it. Like, it's so important to us. Even you're 66 and it's still so important,
Yeah,
right?
yes, of course. And
Crazy.
it's gone to a point where it is no longer approval. It really does not matter anymore. But in fact, now if my dad actually came and said, you know what, I am proud of you, and he has actually said it one time, it did not matter anymore at that point. And I was upset that he told it to me at that time, because it had lost its
You didn't
sweetness.
need it.
No, it had lost its sweetness.
Yeah.
The real need for it had gone out. Let me just put this into airplane mode so it doesn't beep. Yeah. So the key is, then I had to make a decision as to why I was good. Why was I excellent? What was the reason for my excellence? And I suddenly realized that the only reason for my excellence is that it is a state of natural self-expression. That's all. I'm excellent like the way water is wet and flows, like the way fire has light and heat. I'm not excellent for any particular reason. I'm excellent because that is who I am.
And you made the best of it too. So it's like it's you go back to like the approval, right? You're proud of you. Sometimes you wonder if you had someone said that to you, if you had lost, if it would have flamed your drive out.
I
Like if
guess
it would have,
it would have diminished it. It would have. There is a value to be had from deprivation of some kind. It fuels the hunger. It fuels the drive. Uh,
yeah,
it,
it does. If you're
the,
provided
the,
everything or you've been told everything, you don't really know how to
the,
starve, so to speak.
so there is a certain amount of value in the deprivation, in the hunger. uh, the key is the lucky people are able to get the deprivation without the deprivation becoming toxic. There is a fine line. I call it the razor's edge. Just a little bit more on that side, it kills you. A little bit on this side, you lose all drive.
Yeah.
It's right at that
And that's
edge.
why you're at the medical clinic. It's like, hey, didn't work out. You're going to come see me in the other clinic. We'll take care of you on that side. We'll figure it out. You got it all covered. Like if you got the entrepreneurial side, great. I got great team building, some other things for you to use. If not, and you get sick, you come see me. We'll get you patched up. It's gonna be great. But
I'm pretty fortunate in that sense. Yeah.
you got your life's wallet share covered, right? It's like, hey, you're gonna spend money here or there, but we're gonna get you either way. Well done. Well done. I don't know if you meant that or not, but man, that's brilliant. Um, tell me about your like I always ask you these kind of questions, like fast forward a year or so from now. Uh, what are you going to be most proud of?
All right. I got a clear goal for the next 5 years. Um, I, in my personal thing for the next 5 years, my goal is um, to take this message of human connection and the ability to stand in the space. I call it 3 seconds of clarity. That space, that 3 seconds. I've used two phrases. One is 3 seconds of clarity, and then the other phrase I use is 3 seconds to rule the world. Um, and basically, in that, my goal is to get that message out to people that, hey, this power to stand in that 3 second space is available to everyone. You just have to practice it. It's like bicycle riding. Initially, you'll wobble, you'll fall all over the place, and then suddenly you'll start learning the distinction between balance and no balance, and your body will automatically uh, find balance and be able to maintain it and to autocorrect. And then later, in the midst of things, you can lean your bicycle all the way this way and go off balance and still not lose balance. And you will take the curve down Kill Devil Hill with that with 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 that kind of nonchalant expertise. So the idea, therefore, is I truly believe that this gives people the freedom to be. And then once they have the freedom to be, they can be anything that they can be. That's it. I don't have to tell them what they can be. Each one of us have gifts that are immense, and we don't realize these gifts because we are trapped in certain narratives that prevent us from seeing the gifts that we have.
Yeah, it's true. And sometimes life circumstances do it too. Um, I meet lots of obviously entrepreneurs, and a lot of them felt just so kind of trapped in the circumstance of debt, right? Of just things you have, cars, mortgages, and they weren't happy in the jobs they're in. And that's one of the reasons they became an entrepreneur, because their mindfulness, their right, like how they wanted to be and express themselves or define their life wasn't being met. And like, it's a short life, really. I mean, if anybody who's in their 40s, 50s, 60s, right? Like, they're looking back and go, God, I got here pretty quick. Holy moly. Right.
There is
And
there is one other small aspect about entrepreneurship that I wanted to throw in.
please.
Didn't mean to interrupt you. Um,
No, but I please do, because I love where you're going with this, and I'll come
a
back to it. But
lot
yeah,
of almost every entrepreneur is capable of enormous discipline. Where where they fall out, where the very best of the best separate themselves from the pack of entrepreneurs, is how disciplined are they in enjoying the success that comes their way. See, they are very disciplined in the achievement of success. They are very disciplined about the things they do. They really are. But then when they get success, only a few are able to remain disciplined in not letting that success distort their thinking. Um,
so they stopped doing the things that made them successful is what happens, correct?
yes, 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 yes.
Well, and I've seen it, and I have this conversation with several people where it's if your measure of success, intelligence, your ability to be is in money, meaning like, oh, I've made money, I know it all now. Your overall quality of life of what you're enjoying goes down,
Correct.
because you're always going to be chasing a new number as opposed to the process of which got you there. Like, does that make sense? Like, where
Yes.
your end goal is a material thing as opposed to, hey, I've got money now, I have time to go do the other things that I still always want to do, or I want to go do this other event. That's where a lot of them enjoy it. We're like, oh, I have a few things going on now, and I'm really happy because it's keeping me interested, and I got time with friends and family and kids or whatever else. So I've seen that play out a few times, and it's an addictive little monster, that thing of success and money and greed, because you get
Correct.
fixated on it and you forget about the other stuff.
Yeah. And that really separates the best of the best among entrepreneurs from the rest of the pack.
Yeah.
Uh, uh, is how
I
this.
read this. I recently read this book called The Science of Mindfulness, and a lot of things you're talking about is what I think in Buddhism they call the enlightened state, that 3 seconds, and if you can get that long, that's great. But the real science behind uh, how mindfulness can help heal the body, you get you things right and do things. I know it's a series of lectures from a Harvard professor who does these, and anybody who kind of wants to really get into that, it's worth reading for sure. But mindfulness is at the core of what you're talking about. It's like it's being aware of the breath coming across your nose. Like it's really not looking in the
I
past
love
or
it. I love what you're saying, because that's exactly what I did to get it. Though at that time I did not know I was using it. I later found it. It's actually an ancient method called Dwadashanta. Dwa in Sanskrit is two, Dasha is 10, and Anta means the end point. And it's a exercise. There's a text in Kashmiri Shaivism called Vijnana Bhairava Tantra, which is describes a 155 different meditative techniques, and Dwadashanta is one of the 155 in it. It is basically a method where you sit or in any position of comfort, or you can work, you can do anything, but your attention is entirely on the flow of breath. So you follow the breath as it goes into your nose, into the back of your throat, down your throat, into your chest, and you pay attention to the point into your chest where you can no longer sense it. So you sense the flow of your breath, so you can feel the coolness, and at some point in your chest you can no longer follow it. That is the end point, that is the inner end point. Then you follow the outgoing breath in a flow out through your nose, out into the space in front of your face, and you follow it out into the space outside your body to the point where you can no longer sense its flow. That is the external endpoint. Now you keep paying attention to the two endpoints and keep oscillating on the flow of your breath. And at some point, when your intensity of attention is sharp enough, you will just oscillate between the endpoints, inner and outer endpoints, and you will actually lose the perception of everything in between. And in that moment, you enter a space of expansive existence that is not limited by the framework of your body. It's a
You're
state.
describing you're describing exactly how I fall asleep every night. My wife's like, "How do you fall asleep so quickly?" I'm like, "I can concentrate on like 10 breaths and I do this maybe with like a 50, I don't call it a nap, like a 15-minute, just let your brain decompress a little, then you're back out. Like right before you fall asleep for real, you
Yeah.
snap out of it. Now, if you go out, you go out. It's fine. But at nighttime, I can do that and just keep going. And I'm out. Like it's unbelievable how fast I can fall asleep.
So
Give me a cup of coffee, I'll get right through it. No problem.
the mind the mind has only two modes of existence. The mind either works by thinking or it works by falling asleep. It does not exist in any other than these two methods. Either it'll fall asleep, which is going into unconsciousness, or it will be in a state of conscious fluctuation, movement from one mode to another to another to another. Balance is in the in between state between consciousness and unconsciousness, right in that in between 3 second space. That is a state of balance.
Maybe I've achieved it, just don't know how to apply it. The other one I love, by the way, is from just an advice out there. I love this kind of stuff. Is and by the way, I think teaching teams. Come back to your original point. If you teach them maybe this kind of mindfulness before they say something, act, or interact with a customer, that it's the pause, right? If you can take even a half a second pause and just think, I need a pause. That you've done enough to disrupt whatever negative, bad, whatever thing you might have done. But another one I love to do is on a walk is the noble silence, where you kind of look down a little bit and you don't say anything, and you try
Yeah.
to do it as long as possible, and just literally hear your feet, hear a bird, the sound of scuffing of your shoes. Like you're not trying to think of the future of where you're walking to. You're just right there. Like that's a nice noise. That's interesting. I feel my breath. I'm sweating. Whatever. You're just noticing. And if you can do it long enough, a walk can be like literally like you're like, I've been out here 40 minutes. It's unbelievable how fast time will flow if you can do that.
I love it that you're saying this. Now I'm going to just go back just a few sentences to the point where you said maybe I know what it is, but I don't know that I've been doing it without knowing it. I'm going to show you the reason why you said that is because you don't know how to recognize it. You don't know that a diamond, when it is not cut, it just looks like a rock. You're holding it, but you don't know it's a diamond. So I'm going to show you how to identify it right now, this moment. You're
I'm
sitting
ready.
in a you're sitting in a chair right now. I want you to pay attention to the contact of your bottom to the chair. Focus only on that. Now, at the moment of awareness of only that, you don't exist in that moment. Your awareness of contact, your ability to say you exist exists only when you step away from that experience and describe it in language. You
I knew
don't
I should have
exist.
wore pants today. I knew before I got on this interview, I should have wore pants and underwear every time I. All right, so you're saying, so let me put that in framework. So the existence exists when you can describe it, but not when you
Not in
feel the
experience.
sensation of it.
In experience, what happens is the observation, the observer, and the act of observation, the observed, and the observer, all three become one. There is no, they collapse into one entity. They don't exist separate from each other. This collapse is what brings joy. So when you have an intense experience, for example, an orgasm, what happens in an orgasm is just this: the act of union, the players in the union and the act of union are all collapse into a single experience. There is no separation, and that brings joy. When you jump off the cliff in a wingsuit and you're falling and you're in that death defying plunge, you're falling and flying, falling and flying. In that moment, you are only experiencing it. You don't describe it, you describe it after you're landed. And it is
Well,
so
yeah, well,
exhilarating.
you can't describe it if you don't land, just to be clear. If you just kind of, you're going to
Yeah,
land.
yeah, 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 yeah. You land one with the other, but it's just that whether
You're,
you're able
you're
to
coming
describe it
down.
or not.
Either way, you're going down.
Yeah. So, but this is what I'm trying to tell you. In experience, there is no description, there is no memory, there is neither time nor space. All of those exist in description, in memory, in anticipation or memory. So all your past is nothing but descriptive memory. All your future is nothing but anticipation, anticipatory desire. Neither of those are reality. Reality is pure experience.
It's interesting. Well, I heard, you know, if an animal gets cancer, it's it's not it's not worried about it because it doesn't
No,
know it has cancer. Like it may know, but it's not thinking of, oh, am I going to meet God or death, or it's just in the moment
it
having
experiences
cancer.
pain, but
It feels
even when it is,
pain.
yeah, even when it is experiencing pain, it is only experiencing pain. It is not anticipating, it is not complaining about how miserable its life is.
That's right. And like it's an interesting piece because it's existing as it is now, whatever it is. Um,
Correct.
Humans are the weird things that can that live and we're predispositioned, right, to this kind of negative bias, right? And I think the book was talking about that I read was like, the
So there's a
the
reason for that.
right,
It's
right, because we looked at a bush, we said, hey, the guy said that's a tan rock. Or is it a lion? Well, we can't be wrong once, so we can negatively think it's always a lion, it's always a lion, it's always a lion, because the people who thought no, it's a rock died, like they got eaten. Um,
exactly.
so
Exactly.
you're negatively biased. That's why news is negative. That's why you're hooked into it because you assume this is what it is. Anyway, all right. Let me pause. At this time, I'm over when I normally let you do the call to action. I want you to tell. This has been awesome, fantastic, fascinating conversation. For what you're working on today, who is it you want to get a hold of or wants to get a hold of you, and how do you want them to go do that? I want to make sure that you're afforded the time, obviously, to kind of.
Just go to my website, driyer.com, and you can shoot me an email from my website at any time.
But who do you want? Who do you want to contact you? What's the who are you looking to meet?
If you want to learn how, if I mean anyone out there who's listening and wants to actually engage in a process where they can achieve those 3 seconds for themselves, learn how to practice it, learn how to achieve it over time. It won't happen the first time, like bike riding, but you will get it. uh, just reach out, and you know
I love it.
we can talk and see how we can make it happen.
I think I'm gonna uh I'm gonna reach out here. But it's interesting. But I love what you're talking about because I think if you think about how you can't people got to be open to this. And they have to be some phase of their
Where
life.
are you located? Where are you located?
I'm in Atlanta, Georgia.
Oh, okay. I'm in Northern Virginia, so it's not. It's
There you
about
go.
12-hour drive.
That's a long drive. It's much
700
better to fly and sit in the Atlanta
700
airport.
600 miles. Yeah.
Um, what I was saying, like, it's like if for anybody who's looking to do this, right? There's applications you can do to your team, and specifically, I think around customer service or how you interact with each other in stressful situations and things like this. But even in celebrating success, having a touch of mindfulness, which is what you're describing, improves teams' performance.
Yeah.
Thinking of others first, or a bigger goal, or some type of bigger purpose, and being in the moment as opposed to expecting the worst or presuming too many things that's when you get in a little bit of trouble, I think, too, is that when you're not in the moment, solving for the moment, or working for the moment, as opposed to holding all this back stuff and holding on all the anticipation of the future. That doesn't generally produce a lot of good results.
No, no. Both those will eat into your performance. There is a value in some of that, but they actually account for only 10% of your performance. 90% of your performance is being able to stand in the present moment.
Love it. Doctor, thank you so much for coming on today. I appreciate it.
Thank you. It was a fun. I've done so many podcasts. You're the first person who actually were talking to me on the same level.
Oh, no, I'm way below you. I'm only referencing. I appreciate that, but I am not even close. I've read a little bit.
Actually knew the stuff I was talking about. You were able to say.
I've experienced some of it, and I'm craving it to some degree.
You're the first person who actually knew some of what I'm talking about.
You got too many glazed deer eyes in the headlights, we'll be back for a commercial here. I think so one thing I found later in life, here I'm 48, right, a little later, is that I've never cared about mindfulness in the past. I've never cared about anything faith-based. I haven't, in the last couple of years, as you start thinking, man, I'm way closer to the back half than the front half. Not that it couldn't happen, die at any point in your life, but you start realizing things differently. But you also look at your own, you have kids, and you look at your life, and you start thinking, I can do better. I can be better examples. But you're also noticing I'm not really happy with who I am or how I'm behaving or how I react. And so I started looking for things around just that calmness, because how you interact often triggers another person to interact another way. And then that creates a cascading effect of horrible. But the flip side of that is, if you interact in a positive way, even if it's a negative situation, it can have a massively positive effect the other way too. And it's like the butterfly effect and the ripples of that, right? And so I got interested in doing it just because of, just struggles and being an entrepreneur, with being a father, with being married, and like all those things come together. And the book that I wrote, called Never Been Promoted, really looks at kind of this, how you feel, like the humility you need, and the need for, business functions and other things. But don't be so hyper connected to what you're doing. You miss all the moments that count. And so I'm in touch with it only because it's right in front of me every day. And so I'm trying to get better, blink by blink, not even step by step.
It's wonderful.
I love it. Thank you, by the way. Let me, I'm going to put you on the stage. I appreciate so much. Go to driyer.com, guys. Doctor, thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you.
All right, I'll be right back. Let me say goodbye. Anyway, thank you so much. This is a really insightful conversation. Mindfulness and building your teams and all these things, they're all related. And the quicker you understand that, how you interact with your teams, how your teams interact with each other, and how you interact in your life, and find these kind of spaces, the 3 seconds of almost like wisdom, of where you've kind of detached from a moment and you're just in the moment, really do help everything in your life, including business. So have a look at it. Take a look at his book. Go to the, and if you need a good speaker on the topic, I'm going to tell you that he's just interviewing. I've interviewed a lot of people. He knows what he's talking about, and he's experienced it for real. He's not just a paper ninja with this. He's actually done it. So thank you so much, by the way, for listening to the Never Been Promoted podcast. Until we meet again, get out there, go unleash your entrepreneur. Thanks for listening.